write-up, he mixes up the letters. So I was worried. I felt, are you sure this boy is not dyslexic? Why? I asked him, are the letters dancing in front of you? He said, something like that is blurry. I said, you are dyslexic. He said, Mommy, don't tag me. Now let's take him to the doctor. So yesterday, his father took him to the doctor. And they had to give him glasses. Like, it was really bad.
Oh, wow.
So everybody's carrying googles in my house. I'm the only one that is seeing clearly.
Cool.
You know.
I have to use the opportunity to talk to Nigerians about my page has been, well, not my page, a scammer has been scamming Nigerians for money using my name and my book. I don't understand it. Wow. Polaris bank account, the number, I posted it on my page yesterday. It's quite painful. This has happened to me many years ago. But again, this person in particular is using my book to get people to pay. So I got prominent people sending me messages to confirm if this is my account number.
Hey.
I did not give you any account number. So the guy is going around collecting money on my behalf, and I have to just use the opportunity to tell Nigerians, please, don't fall victim to these scammers. They would, I mean, if I need money from you, I'll call you directly. You hear my voice, I'm not talking. I won't send you a message for money.
And aside from that, this has to be reported to the police?
Oh, absolutely. So I'm going to do a police
have to
report
fish
today.
him out.
I'm going to see what we're going to take it from there.
Yeah.
All right, let's go on a quick break. When we come back, we go to the front pages of the papers. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. We're going to start with the paper review. The Nation, it's our first paper today. Federal government votes 100 billion naira for high-capacity CNG buses. £100,000 bribe trial. UK court slams tough bail terms on Dizani. Tinubu graduated from CSU, that's Chicago State University, in 1979, says school. NAF airstrikes kill terrorists in Borno. WHO okays Oxford vaccine for malaria. ECA withdrawal, states to get 1 trillion naira refund. 18 burned to death in Rivers illegal refinery fire. Obaseki inaugurates 34 SSAs and 152 SAs. And tribunal sacks Nasarawa governor. Okay, let me start with the Chicago State University. So, the Chicago State University has responded to the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar's request to get the president's certificates and credentials from the CSO and the CSU. So yesterday, based on the court order from the United States, the documents were released to Atiku Abubakar's lawyers, and the school explained that after diligence, it was able to find some diploma certificates and did not give names because of privacy concerns. But the school was able to certify that indeed the president, Tinubu, graduated from the university in 1979 with a bachelor's degree in business administration. That much was confirmed by the documentation released to Atiku Abubakar. So that's pretty much the nutshell of what we have so far. But we'll see what the PDP or Atiku how they're going to respond to this. But so far, what we have is that indeed the documentation provided to Atiku does confirm that the president did graduate from Chicago State University in 1979.
So the federal government yesterday voted 100 billion naira to facilitate the conversion of buses and bring in CNG buses. So they have 55,000 conversion kits that will be coming into the country.
Okay.
They're also looking at bringing in more buses. But at the parley that they had with the NLC and the TUC that stalled the strike for about 30 days, they reached a lot of conclusions. They suspended the strike for 30 days. The federal government to press states on wage award, the tax incentives for private sector workers that will start, and I'm hoping that, when they get the incentives, they get to increase workers' salary. 35,000 naira to be given to federal workers for 6 months. 75,000 for 75,000 naira for 15 million households. We also talked about it with the Minister for Humanitarian Affairs yesterday. Suspension of VAT on diesel for 6 months. Increased distribution of subsidized fertilizer and joint visitation to refineries. Now, they said there's pressure on the GM, what's it called, for the refineries in Port Harcourt and Warri to pick up operations. And I'm hoping that will result in progress as well.
Okay, another story?
Yeah, so in addition to that, I think the Punch said that the 35,000 naira would even go beyond 6 months.
That's a new one.
Yes, it will get to when they are able to determine the minimum wage that will now be paid the workers.
Okay.
So, but they are setting up a committee very soon, just a month into when they start with the 35,000 naira to see how they can easily get the new minimum wage. Yeah. So I have the story of 18 people burnt to death in Rivers, illegal refinery. So the persons have been burned to death by fire that engulfed an illegal oil refinery site at Iba, a Mohua local government area of Rivers State. 25 others at the scene were injured when the inferno broke out on Sunday night. There was an amateur video on social media showing remains of the children, men and women that were littering the scene. So the commandant of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, NSCDC, Basil Igwebweze, and the Emohua local government area chairman, Chidi Lloyd, were the ones that confirmed the tragedy. And they said the death toll was 18, but some community sources said it was up to 33. They said the pregnant woman, the son of the illegal refinery operator, and a woman who was about to wed were among those people that were burnt to ashes. Now, the owner of the refinery, John Bodo, sustained several injuries. It was his son, who just graduated recently from a tertiary university, that died on the spot. And the fire started like really very late. So 18 victims were burnt beyond recognition, while 25 injured persons were rescued. So they said they've been complaining about, having these illegal refineries, and it was just so unfortunate that there were a lot of young people who were involved in this. They keep telling people you can't have illegal refineries because anything can happen and then you get the blowback. Imagine the owner now dying, getting injured, and his son, who just finished school, dying in the process.
Any other story, Nisha?
Yes, I have the story on Diazani. £100,000 bribe trial. UK court slams tough bail terms on Diazani. EFCC to press on with her extradition. So, Ms. Alison Madueke, who I think she was a minister 2015, is still facing trial in the UK court. And this time around, the bail terms have really gone up. I want to list them. So she has a curfew band on her now between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. She has to go around with an electronic tag to be worn by her at all times. And the unfortunate part of EFCC insisting that once this is agreed, she has to be extradited immediately. Very sad. So she's the second person who would be facing something similar to this after the James Ibori case in 2012.
Do you remember?
I hope this really serves as a deterrent to other ministers.
This woman is beyond touchable. So let them first bring her first before they detail us.
Exactly.
She can't ask first.
Okay, let's move on to the punch.
Somebody that said they cannot even get us.
6 months allowance, federal government to spend 315 billion naira. Labour suspends strikes for 30 days. 33 fared killed in illegal refinery explosion. Bribe-taking policemen return to Lagos Road. Extort 25,000 from driver. Marketers disagree with Tinubu tax advisor on refinery sale. Bribery, UK court restricts Diazani's movement. EFCC begins extradition. And Chicago Varsity releases Tinubu's record to Atiku. Let me take the marketers, although I don't have much of their own perspective from this article. But most importantly, what happened was that the chairman of the Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms Committee, Mr. Taiwo Idili, said that Nigerians should pray that the country's refineries don't work. And this is why he said so. He said that, he was speaking at the Platform's Independence Anniversary event. He said that if our refineries produce petroleum, the issue with the inefficiencies in the management might actually make a liter of petrol much more expensive, or probably even the most expensive in the entire world. So his issue is that the inefficiency in the management of it. Said Nigerians should say, if only our refineries, Nigerians usually think that once our refineries start working, petrol will be cheaper. He said that might be far from the truth, because we've spent 10 trillion naira maintaining our refineries even for the past many years, and that even if it starts working today, the issue of inefficiency must be addressed. So he would rather they sell off the refineries to the private sector, who are then able to manage it better than we can. Although marketers have generally disagreed with him, but the article I have doesn't really tell us the perspective. But generally, they are totally in a disagreement with the chairman on this suggestion of selling the refineries to the private sector. Okay, any other story in the Punch?
Yes, I have a motorist lamenting the return of some policemen who specialize in extorting motorists around the traffic light in a Sherry Beggar area of the state. Policemen said to be attached to the Sherry police have been carrying out their activities. They've returned. So what happened was, I think in June 28, 2022, Punch had to do, an investigation in that. I remember we took the story on the table here, that there were some unscrupulous people who parade themselves as policemen who are extorting. They're actually policemen who are extorting people on that traffic light at that Isheri Beggar Road. So, they catch you and they say you have, committed a crime, and then they promise to take you to the station to pay a fine of 120. And so this particular man has been, Sunday Oroleke fell victim recently to it. They were able to extort 25,000. As a matter of fact, they took him to the POS to withdraw the money, only for him to carry out an investigation and realize that they were illegal in doing that. The then commissioner of the state had, sent them away before. But after he left, they just resumed back. They've been working there for 3 months. And Punch has been trying to reach the police to get their take on it. So we haven't heard that. Hopefully they will do something and take those men out of the road.
All right, let's go on a quick break. When we come back, continue with our review. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Still reviewing Nation. Okay, let's move on now to the Daily Sun. Strike. FG reaches truce with NLC and TUC. FG begins designing extradition. Economy. Buhari's ex-spokesman counters Tinubu's wife. COVID-19 scientists win Nobel Prize for medicine. Terrorism. 22 Katsina local governments not safe. Governor Rada tells Inspector General of Police. Fire kills 20 persons at bunkering site in Rivers. 3 commuter buses, 4 motorcycles, others burnt in attack by armed men in Ebonyi. How I would have handled subsidy removal and palliative distribution, says Peter Obi. Okay, which story?
So the presidential, candidate of the Labour Party at this February 25th, 2023 presidential elections, Mr. Peter Gregory Obi, is calling for a law to criminalize and sanction the use of the USD, United States American dollar, as underground or shadow currency in Nigeria for economic transactions. So he said that it's wrong for Nigerians to be spending the USD within the country in a place where Naira is the legal tender, that all other countries, dollar is only used largely for international transactions and not as an alternative to their legal tender currency. So he, talked about the fact that it was being shared to the delegates in the last party primaries ahead of the 2023 general elections. And it was so bad that everybody wanted to have, that USD. And so he's calling the National Assembly to push for a law to criminalize the use of foreign currencies for local economic transactions. Then he went ahead to also talk about how he would have, carried out the subsidy removal. He would have cushioned the effects first. He would work with stakeholders before finally removing it, among other things. Yeah.
Okay, another story, son. No. So I have a story. Katsina State Governor Diko Rada has described the extent of the state of insecurity in the area, lamenting about 22 out of 34 local government areas are not safe due to activities of terrorists. He spoke to the Inspector General of Police yesterday, Mr. Kayode Egbetokun, at the police headquarters in Abuja. He was saying that the governor solicited for more support from the police to check the menace within his state. Says that he appreciated the work they've done so far, but he really needed their support because 22 out of his 34 local governments are absolutely not safe for habitation. They said result of a forest with length of 800 kilometers, bordering about 8 local governments. Our administration has already recruited 1,500 youths who are currently undergoing training on how to work with security personnel in fight against insecurity. He also just saying that they're on ground to support the police the best they can if required, but they need their urgent support in those communities. Moving on now quickly to Vanguard. FG Labour reached truce, nationwide strike suspended. Tribunal sacks Nasarawa governor in split decision. Palliatives, government making announcements with limited thinking, says Peter Obi. Manufacturers query federal government's 6-month VAT waiver on diesel. FG draws roadmap to make Nigeria total digital economy. Africa won't rise by prayer and fasting, says Professor Lumumba. 35 persons burned to death at Rivers illegal refinery site. And APC mocks 8-man NNPP London protest, slams Kano governor for blackmailing federal government. Okay, which story?
Okay, so I have Professor Lumumba. He was one of the speakers at this year's platform event hosted by the Covenant Nation in Igomu, and he talked about Africa. He said Africa has become a continent where every election there's a conflict, and for us to move forward, to change, governance must be dealt with. Adding that if the question of governance was left out, the continent's progress would be stalled. He said every election, because of the pursuit of power, cutthroat competition where our throats are actually cut. And we have a problem in that direction, and the sooner we resolve that, the safer we will be. Africa can rise, and Africa will rise, but it is not by it's not going to rise by prayers and fasting, which is a direct statement. And he talked about that freedom will not be given to Africa on a silver platter, but that the continent must stand up and take responsibility for itself. I completely agree with him.
Any other story?
A good one, yes.
Vanguard?
Yes, just in addition to the other story I took, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, the last election, was saying that this government has been making announcements without thinking, that and that's why it's been producing limited outcomes. That normally they're supposed to have, like a team that would decide on the after effects of their pronouncements and their policies before they announce it. So what he's saying is that they are suffering from what he calls announcement of effect. There should be well thought out policy by a properly constituted economic team before making these announcements. It's not just like making announcements in the market square and then when the people revolt, you go back and you change it. And it cited the 25,000 naira addition that would be added to the workers while the NLC talked about it. They went back again and increased it to 35,000 naira. That this should not be so. And he advised that this is the time the federal government has to work in coordination between the federal, state, and local governments to pull through this difficult time. Everybody must be working hand in hand. And said some things that he would have done differently.
Okay. So the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, MAN, they commended the 7.5 waiver on the VAT on diesel. However, they resisted or they rejected the idea for it being just for 6 months. The Director General of MAN, that's Segun Ajayi Kadri, in a chat with Vanguard, was saying that it was important that they must accept the 7.5 waiver. However, the federal government's announcement of making it 6 months is indeed it's kind of troublesome for them. And the reason is because they believe that the manufacturing sector is such an important key part of this economy, the reviving of the economy, such that they need more time to give more leeway for them to be able to do more work in the sector. So you also recall that MAN has stridently advocated for the removal of VAT on diesel, especially because it has actually become a major input into their production process. They rely on diesel to power our machines and meet our energy needs in the face of all this abysmal power supply from the national grid. You are also aware that the prices have gone above 1,000 naira per litre. So right now, they really need the VAT to be completely removed, at least for now, until further notice, not for 6 months. That's their own recommendation.
Let me add another story before we go. So the Ebonyi State Police Command has said that gunmen have burnt 3 commuter buses, 4 motorcycles, and 1 tricycle in the state. The Ebonyi State Police Public Relations Officer, SP Onome, was the one who told the news agency of Nigeria, and they said the attack occurred in Ezambo, or Hauku local government area of the state, along the Enugu-Abakaliki Expressway. And he said the armed men were suspected to be members of IPOB. but thankfully there was no life that was lost at the time. So she says on October 2nd, armed men suspected to be IPOB members in Sienna car attacked commuter buses, tricycles and motorcycles at Ezambu Junction. They burnt down 3 commuter buses, 4 motorcycles and 1 tricycle. However, the operatives of the command have been dispatched to the scene and they'll find a way to get those people.
Okay, the Nigerian Tribune very quickly. This one is still not taken. Osun community gets electricity after 91 years. WHO recommends new cheap malaria vaccine for use. Nobel Prize goes to scientists behind the mRNA COVID vaccines. Olubadan threatens to disown children, wives over financial allegation against brother. Lagos Ibadan cargo rail operating below capacity, say NRC. Non-interest banking, Taj Bank leads in Tier 1 capital PBT. 15 feared burnt to death during the bunkering activity in Rivers, and tribunal sacks Sule, declares PDP candidate as Nasarawa governor. Runke, you want to start?
Yes. So on Monday this week, the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine was given to Professor Kathleen Carrico and Drew Westman. So Drew Westman and Kathleen were both, they were students in the same university somewhere in 1990, and all of a sudden, Carrico just got, so Drew was recognized as the Nobel winner for the COVID vaccine at the time of the pandemic, but with further investigation, it was acknowledged that he didn't do it alone. There was somebody else by his side who is Professor Carrico, and it's interesting because we always know Nobel Awards goes to literacy, so for the first time we're having something in science coming back to us in Nigeria. So,
Nima?
Yes, I have the Olubadan story. So, the Olubadan of Ibadan land, Oba Senator Lekan Balogun, has threatened to disown any of his children or wives found to be involved in the allegation of financial impropriety against his brother, Senator Kola Balogun. And the first son, that's the Aremo Kabiyesi, the first male child of the Olubadan, had done a 4-page letter to address the family and called on Senator Balogun, that's the brother to the President Olubadan, Senator Kola Balogun, to account for the Olubadan's funds and properties that were in his care within 7 days. But the Olubadan disagreed. He said his attention had been drawn to that letter. He finds it grievous allegations leveled against my kid and loving and only surviving brother. And he said, by some of my children, which I am aware has gone viral. It is unfortunate to note that none of these allegations has an atom of truthfulness. That's the Olubadan defending his brother now. And he says, whatsoever is in it, and only the author of such is baseless. I must publicly acknowledge the invaluable role of my brother and that he has been playing in my life. Is the only one that has been with me through thick and thin. He defended his brother, finished, and even apologized and says that the behavior of his children, especially his son, who is the orchestrator of the letter, is he should accept his behavior of his nephew as childish. He says, I will be eternally grateful to the Almighty Allah for blessing me with such a wonderful brother. And since the publication came out, all attempts to speak to the author of the offensive, odorous report has been futile. Within family, and he says every family has their issue. I detest and abhor anything of such, and I won't mind to disown whoever among my children, all wives who chose such dishonorable, disparaging path. However, Jaremo insists that in the spirit of transparency and fairness and equity, that the Senator Kola Balogun must respond to the allegations leveled against him, which include monies gathered during the installation of bales and mortgages running into millions of naira. It's a family matter, Sha. Very interesting.
But I like the position of the Olu.
Yeah. You think?
Oh,
I don't know, it can be debated. It can be...
So Araromi Okeodo in Ife South local government area of Osun State at the weekend went agog after being supplied with electricity first time after 91 years.
Hey, blood of Jesus.
Hey, blood of Jesus. So speaking at the inauguration of the 50 kWp hybrid solar power plant.
For independence.
I'm telling you. 1930-something. Built by Sholep Energy Limited, the managing director, chief executive officer, Olalikon, said the project will power the whole community. He also said the project will cover about 700 houses in the community, and saying that what they have going on, they are still going to have leftover, so they need more help. So according to him,
more to distribute.
Yes, more to distribute. Said they came in October 2018. and they realized that the people did not have access to electricity and clean water. So they started providing them 20,000 liters of water on a daily basis, and they've been providing 24-hour uninterrupted electricity for 10 years. So they have the necessary equipment, including the 110 kVA generating set, which has been newly installed, but they are seeking government cooperation now. They said they are facing a lot of challenges. There's no good road in the environment. They will need that to be able to continue. And the project was financed by SHOLEP with the support of the World Bank and Rural Electrification Agency. The state governor is excited about it, and he's promising to partner with independent energy companies to light up some other parts of the community.
I would even
Wow.
like to see
It is
that
strange, man.
Celebrating.
because that place na real
91 years.
If you talk about electricity, my place na town.
Yes, so.
Your place.
Natan.
What's Natan?
Natan.
Oh. Can we move on? That's all we can take on front page review. When we return, this is Nima. We'll go to our hot top next segment. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Natan.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. So our hot topic today is about all the mixed reactions that had continued to flow on social media concerning the senior pastor of the Redeemed Christian of Church of God, RCCG, Pastor E. Adeboye, who was saying that Nigerians must constantly pray for Nigerians. Last Sunday during the church's Thanksgiving service, he urged Nigerians to pray for the country. He noted that to enjoy freedom, individuals should keep praying for the country, stressing that colonization does not mean freedom from poverty, terror, or sickness. Now, if we move that to the recent speech by the renowned Kenyan Pan-Africanist and human rights activist Patrick Lumumba, who I think Nima took that story during the paper review, said that the liberation of the African continent will not come by fasting and prayer. So obviously, this has started lots of mixed reactions on social media, saying that why do we keep praying after all the years of prayer? How far has it brought Nigeria? Others will say, if there was no prayer, you have no idea where it would have been. It would have been worse because many other countries would not have gone through a fraction of what we've gone through, and probably are not standing today. So what are your own general thoughts on this, on the conversation? You can call us on 081-0764-1679, 090-241-63440. You can also tweet to us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag YourViewTVC so we can read your tweets. And also send us comments on YouTube. We'll be happy to hear your views. Who would like to start with?
I would.
Okay, Ronki, let me let you jump in here because I know that prayer, they say, is the key. You know, prayer is the key. Prayer is the key. Prayer is the master key. Right? So we have that as our foundation. But now people are saying, how far has prayer really brought this country? Like, do we still need more prayers? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think what he said to me sounds like a very mature point, but it has some holes, and that's why people are attacking it. But I say it's a mature point because if you've used a particular method, approach, and it has worked for you, you'll be happy to tell the world about it. Looking at who Pastor E. Adeboye is, he looks very successful. I mean, he's gone into nations and he's been doing stuff. And over the years, he's grown. So if he's saying to us that one of the things that has worked for him is his ability to pray to a God who answers, and he's saying, okay, Nigerians, you guys should also pray. That's one angle to it. But because we have a lot of young people and considering the tension in the country now, people want a lot more than prayers. So my thought on it is, let us adopt what he has said. And before we present our case, because if he had said, go out and fight, people would say, yes, he's for us. And that might not give us the result. Praying also might not be enough, but let us start from there. That's what I have to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nima, want to jump in?
I believe prayers are important. As a Muslim, prayer is extremely important. We're encouraged to, after worshiping, to supplicate, to ask, to pray. And I went to, I've tasted both religions, major religions in Nigeria. I went to a Christian school, and prayer is the key. Just as Maria was singing it, we've prayed enough. We've prayed more than enough, but we've not acted. And there's a saying in the Quran that, Allah will not change the condition of the people until they change their ways. So for how much longer are we going to just continue praying without taking action? We want God to endorse the efforts that we are putting. That's why we're asking it. But are we making those efforts? That's a different matter. So
that's nothing to endorse.
There's nothing to endorse. Nigerians are not changing their ways. They're not making efforts. They're not doing anything. We go around the world. We come back. We have big achievements. But most of our achievements are personalized. We just come and sit down. What exactly is the government's, the general plan, the consensus plan for the Nigerian youth? What's our consensus culture to better ourselves? Recently, we debated after the death of Mohbad on the show how our music industry is taken over by cultism, how we popularize and negate, ignore the negatives of, artists smoking and all of that. We would like to see changes. But what did we do? We are praying for our children.
Simple.
Me, yourself, all of us. Yeah. We constantly are praying. But are we doing anything to make sure it doesn't become the narrative? In the sense that every artist, no matter how popularly consumed your music is, if you do that in a public place in Nigeria, you are no longer allowed to do your shows here. Your music will be banned by the NBC. What exactly are we doing to make sure
I'll come to that in a
it's
second.
not the narrative?
There's something you said I don't want to forget. I'll come to you, Beecee, in a second. But you said about we're praying for our children. And I know that I've watched movies where a sinful child goes out doing stuff and the mother is not correcting him. She's just praying for him that God will touch his heart. And then we see that God indeed touches his heart. All his behavior, sleeping around, taking drugs, God touches his heart and he comes home willingly by himself. And he comes home and we're thanking God for it. So when we see that in our mind, let's keep praying and hopefully the nation will just miraculously get back. I mean, when you said that, I don't want to forget that point, but that's part of the principle of prayer and getting results.
I don't like the way you you give that analogy, because I know that women who have children, aside from prayer, they shout, they correct those children.
Some don't.
So some don't, and they're praying.
Yes, some don't.
Are you kidding? And they're praying.
Yes, I was afraid of the child because you raise the child. Maybe there's some children that are really, really aggressive.
Wow.
You don't want anybody slapping. You don't want to have a record by your side child. So just pray for the child. So it happened, but let me let you jump.
Anyway, no be me go burn that kind of people.
Yeah, of course, like Barolo. We won't have that kind of child.
So,
keep praying.
I think Nigerians are just tired of the one narrative, which is everybody go and pray, because God will, if you ask for a chair, God has given you a tree. God will not come down and manufacture a chair for you. You have your tree. So think how you can make your chair from that tree. So Nigerians are tired of, okay, let us keep praying. Let us keep praying. Nigerians want to hear more. Nigerians want to hear how you chastise what is happening in the country. Nigerians want to hear how you call out the wrong things that are happening. Nigerians want you to give them like a template. You are a minister of God. You know how you've been running your own establishment with excellence. So when you say pray, Nigerians want more points to add to that prayer. Okay, we did this, we did that, we made sure everybody did this, everybody did that. Nigerians want, so it seems like you are speaking from a place of experience. You are working your company, you are successful. It's like when people come here to gist us how they became successful. There are questions we ask them. How? What did you do? How many sleepless nights did you have? Who did you meet? Who did you talk to? How did you network?
Yeah.
We want to see the process. We want you as a leader to guide us in the process. There are people I like to listen to, and those people always break down the process for me. So they don't say, let's just read the Bible, let's just pray, let's sing. You are going to have 1 billion in your accounts today. Everybody, hallelujah, hey, we're shouting. We go home and back to our Gary. I like to hear things like, if you're working in your place, you must be excellent. You must deliver. You must come on time. You must call out the evil that is there. You must not be corrupt. You must not sit in the seat of the wicked. You hear those things and you're like, okay, these are the actions that I will take. And then when I add it with prayer, it's backed up. Because then God, like you rightly said, has something to work on.
Yes.
So it's not like prayer is bad. It's not like we're saying don't pray anymore. But I like what Lumumba said at the platform. He was actually at the platform organized by Covenant Christian Center. And he said that when Abraham was told to leave all of the Chaldeans to go to the land of Canaan, he was put there. What happened? He fought his way through. That's process. That's action. That's the how. He did not say, because God has told me to come and take this land, he'll go there and see that they would have killed him. He fought his way through. So Nigerians want to hear, how can we fight our way through? How are you calling out the government that is not doing us well? How are you calling out we individuals that are cheating ourselves? Because it's we are still the government at the end of the day. What are you saying? What are you telling us on how we can do it? Then prayer is like an addition. You now add it to back up. So we want more than just telling us, let us keep praying, let's keep praying. Just seems like, let's just resign to whatever happens.
Wait, let me come, I'll come to you, okay? Let's come to the person of Pastor Adeboye. I mean, there was a time you can't even, when did we get to the point where we are openly condemning, resisting a man of God of that capacity? I understand there's nobody saying you shouldn't speak your mind, but there's some things you expect that people would see, hear, and accept it in reverence of who is saying it. Where do we come so openly and say, who is he to talk about like this? I don't get that. How do we come to this point, do you think? Okay.
So I think we're fast losing our culture. There's a part of this pain that Nigerians are going through that they seem to, like a revolution. We don't even care who is speaking. If you don't say what we want to hear, then we'll come after you. So it's a cultural defect that we must correct. And then it's not everybody that reverse him that way, the way you might have expressed it. Some people just feel, he's doing his stuff. I mean, there's a Dangote, there's so. So it might be just one angle.
Yeah.
Okay. So I wanted to respond to what Dr. Beecee said. Yeah. So I'm wondering.
Yeah, informal. Yeah. Please calm down.
Okay, all right. So I don't know why when we hear "let us pray," we assume that let us just fold our hands and just resign to whatever happens. Praying could be give us the right people. Praying could be give us the right policies. Just imagine if we pray for the president and he does things right. We might move out of where we are. Imagine if we pray that we have the right people in place and there's no room for wickedness or there's no room for negligence. All of this, somebody dies here, look at insurgency. How do you fight an enemy you don't know? You see what the highlight, I think it was the headline Nima took. Someone took something on Katsina that said 24 local governments are already, facing threats. So how can you go and fight that kind of system where you have just 12 left and you don't even know what the plan is? How do you fight a lot of insecurity coming from one state to another? Maybe we should, I want to agree with what Nima said, that when we pray, we've got to add commensurate action to it. And the people who are in authority should know that we're praying for them. They should act right. So what I said is from a mature angle is, it's possible to see a problem and want to address it from the surface. You see a child doing something wrong and you want to face it. But it's also possible for you to say, like you explained, let me go on my knees and pray that God will touch the heart of this child, because I can't even see what is in his heart. I can only address. And some parents speak to their children. The children speak back. Some parents talk to their children. The children walk out of the house and they never see them again. So we're in a very safe point if we're asked to pray. Okay. But I encourage that when we pray, we should do more.
You want to say something?
Go ahead.
One cash fire.
Yes, I totally disagree.
Okay.
The countries that are successful in the world today, how many prayers have they made?
They prayed.
Which prayer?
I'll tell you they prayed in the
Singapore
1800s.
China
They
prayed.
prayed.
Let me tell you how it works, right?
Tell us.
We are all adults that should begin to take responsibility for our actions. Sometimes we hide under this prayer because we don't want to do what we need to do. Now, the same people where they go church, they pray, and then come late recently, lock a minister inside. Minister lock them out. They vex lock minister. They know they go church. They know they go mosque. They have different religions. They have
They even prayed.
They prayed on
when
Sunday.
it was 2 o'clock prayers. They spread their mouth and prayed.
So we don't want that anymore. It seems like there's a lot of hypocrisy, and people hide their inefficiencies inside prayer. That's why we're saying, see, leave this prayer aside. We know that we are going to pray. I've been going to church since now. We've been praying for the country. Nobody needs to tell me to pray for my country because I live here and I want to succeed here. So I will pray for the land, that God will bless me in the land and bless the land itself, right? So when you want to give us like public address, don't go to that prayer. We know that. Tell us to be diligent. Tell us to be excellent. Help us to see how we are inefficient is affecting what is happening across board. That's what I want to see. Then you also mentioned our culture. I personally believe that anybody can be questioned. If you're in a position of authority, it doesn't make you above every other body, above every person that you are not questioned, you're not asked questions. The prophets of old were questioned. You will be questioned. We know you're a mouthpiece of God, but if we were not questioned in the first place, we'll still have one religion the way it started from the beginning. The Protestants came out of the first one because there were questions. So we have the brain, we have the logic, we have the cognitive ability to question authority. And we too, if we are, strong in our own religion, the way you are now, you know your religion very well and all of that, you study your Bible, you can question authority. Even the scripture says, test the spirit. So there's nothing wrong in questioning.
You said don't question now. You don't start your own
Hold on now. It's not about disrespect.
Right.
Of course, we know how some young people will now open their mouth and talk anyhow. No, that's not what we're saying. But we can question.
Right.
It's okay to question.
Okay, let me come to Nima, because
respectfully.
there's this issue of we need our leaders or even our religious leaders to call out. And when I hear people say, let them call out the government, I'm thinking the same way a teenager on drugs needs that high from using is it shasha or shashi, whatever, shisha, whatever it is. The same way a teenager needs that drug. It's like those of us who are calling out call them out. We also need that emotional high, that to see somebody on the pulpit calling out, because it gives us that. Because how many calling out has really actually changed any country or any nation? Has calling out really changed policies? How much of calling out do we want or we demand of our religious leaders? Because we saw it during the elections. Call out. Any pastor that is not calling out, that one has
they start to deceive you.
So you must be call out. That's how the people love you. And they get that emotional high, get excited, and then we all go back to...
The legal luminary, I think, is a bencher, Per Clark. He mentioned it recently, I think over this weekend, about how all the religious leaders had to line up with social media during the election, or they will lose their members. So they decided to see visions that were not real. But you asked the question, how much has call-out changed us? That's why I said we as a people, we don't want what we want. For them up north, where they have their own peculiar issues, they had the Sanusi, the dethroned emir, who is also a religious leader. He's the grand, I don't know what they call it of the Tijaniya, because I don't do sects from my family, the kind of Islam we practice, but there's the Tijaniya movement. And he's like their head scholar. Yeah. And his membership is wide, and he will stand before that membership, call out the government while he was still emir. Yeah. He did not fear his affinities with the throne. He did not fear government, because, of course, as an emir, you are government. He did not fear members of his movement. He called out power. He talked about how religious places were closed 5 times, after 5 times prayers, and schools were open, and they were not enough. And he said, convert them, because mosques in the days of the prophet were also learning places. He looked at the situation in the north. He called out many anomalies. What did they do? Somebody removed him. Yeah. He left government, he left the Emirates of Kano, and he still continued to speak. Did they answer? Yeah. The kind of knowledge that person is carrying around that can change the way of his people. The people allowed someone, because if the people don't want, the people will not be forced to follow.
Oh my goodness.
If the people don't want, the people say, oh, we don't want to, we are one watching, wait, no more sugars. Yeah. And somebody says sugar is bad for you. They say, go and lock him up. We must sell sugar. And they say, okay, now we are not going to consume it. Everybody will be fine.
Exactly.
But the other people whose problems he was advocating for a change for,
worked against.
They watch him removed. They watch another person who know how to be quiet put there. And they watch him relocate out of the region. And do you let knowledge go? You follow knowledge. And it is the religion that is most practiced up north that preaches follow knowledge. They let him go. And if his policies were taken, we would have seen difference. I love reading any articles. I will sit at it for hours.
When you're talking, I was thinking of all this calling out thing. And I remember that back in the 90s,
it's not this that call out.
Quite a number of our leaders that called out government went on self-exile. Some of them were exiled. What did that really... I mean, if we review a bit of our history, those who called out government and real calling out,
let me
they were jailed.
Let me respond quickly. Let's put it in perspective. They were jailed, but the people at the time respected them.
Yes.
Till today, it is this generation that told Wole Soyinka that which one is the Nobel laureate for saying his mind. But he was put in jail when he fought for the people at the time with his Nobel laureate, and those people at the time did not dishonor him. It is our that's why there's a difference in the two generations. It's in this Shalaye generation. Anybody that did not say what they want to hear, correct or wrong. You have to be politically correct with them. Anything they want to hear, just be telling them. Even if it is as an expense, even if it will cost the future generation. That's why today we're now shouting that some people have used courtism to kill one artist. They have drugged, they have done that. Like, it's the same generation that are shouting because their methods are wrong. In those generations, what is bad was bad.
Everywhere.
They were not confused.
Ini Behe Efion. He said, Pastor Adeboye, I will not pray for Nigeria because our country does not need prayers. The problems of Nigeria are not spiritual and would not be solved with prayers. You and other religious leaders have been endlessly praying for Nigeria since 1960. We are yet to see fundamental positive changes. Many of those who ruined and still ruining Nigeria are alive and nothing has happened to them. They even live better and longer than the good people. Unemployment, corruption, and other things still persist. So now, he is saying he would not pray for Nigeria. And there's a part of that, there's a part of the argument that says that it's the prayer that we have been praying that's even kept us together. Because many countries that didn't go to half a quarter of what we went through fell apart, and today they're no more standing. Many of them are dispersed in different countries. So they're saying that it's actually the prayer that we need. What do you I mean, that prayer that we're praying is what held us down to today. Do you agree?
Well, I would say to a large extent, yes. And I also want to ask that other people can share. I mean, we have freedom of expression. So if a pastor says we should pray, politicians should say walk, somebody else should say do this. So I don't think he should be blamed for saying pray as a pastor. He has already told us he's a pastor. We know him as a pastor. So maybe I would still stand on my point that beyond the prayer, maybe some kind of guidance into making people accountable.
I like what you just said. Let me tell you what you just said, how what it came to, because everybody do your part. So he's a pastor. He's saying pray. Family, parents, do your own. Raise the child well. Yes. Employer, do your own part. Government officials, everybody do your part.
Follow
your own. Because if we all do our part and say, I'm raising you to be respectful, maybe your child would not be jobless or whatever it is. I mean, I'm just saying that, hypothetically speaking. So everybody should do their own role in the society. It's not just the prayer. Prayer is part of a whole. Of what
there's a part of grace.
I want to quickly address the calling out thing. So I don't think it is wrong to call out anyone in authority, especially at this time. Nobody should assume because I am the leader, then I have some kind of immunity. But I'd like to talk about the how. I still maintain that our culture is eroding because of the how that these Gen Zs and a bit of the Gen Alpha have chosen to express when trying to let out their grievances. So you could have still done the same thing to say, sir, we have been praying, we'll continue to pray. Can you show us the how? Can you talk a little more on the how? Instead of saying, you know, I saw so many comments and I was just wondering that very soon this thing will reach all of us.
It did touch everybody.
It will touch everybody.
Let me go on a quick break. We're going to come back and take a few comments on social media. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. We're going to take a few comments on social media. I have one. Yeah, go ahead.
He says, Adeboye's call is in order. He's a pastor. That is his work. Praying and reminding people to pray. And I'd have a problem with that call if it was made by a political leader, a senior government functionary. Olan Shile says, I will never understand why people are dragging Pastor Iyadubu. He's not a politician. He's not our president. Let this man breathe. We have 3 religions in Nigeria. Why is no one dragging imams, afars, traditionalists?
They did
He
not
says he
call for
shakes his
prayer.
head.
Somebody says everybody has a role to play. Pastor Adeboye, as a cleric, has a right to advocate for prayers because that's his role. Human rights activists have their own role to play. The problem with social media is that the new generation wants everybody to join in castigating the government, and that's not the role of a cleric.
I like this one. Dave IBK says, the Bible states clearly that prayer of a righteous man avails much. I agree with the fact one of the ladies made that his statement is mature. But what Nigeria needs right now is not prayer alone, emphasis on alone. Yeah. We also need to let go of our deforming love for money and material things, which is rampant among Nigerians, and start to focus on the good and uplifting of the nation as a whole, which can only stem from love and concern for our fellow countrymen. If we had love for each other, then we would not have issues of rituals, kidnappings, embezzlement, and the likes. This must be taken into consideration along with prayers.
Let me take Stephen from London. Thanks for calling, Stephen.
Hello, ladies.
Good morning. You're live.
Yes. Please permit me to contribute to the discussion going on. Please let us bear in mind that Pastor Adeboye speaks greatly about every point you have been saying about hard work. He's an example of hard work. He's a first-class mathematician, a renowned individual who has he has gotten to the level of being called by the United Nations to address all the heads of state in the world, and he never missed words, telling him everything you are saying. I believe, I love your views so much. CBC, you are doing a great job, Babatute Otitoju and all of that. But I will advise that we are careful not to turn your view to a religious forum, particularly when it comes to Christianity. It is becoming too common for you to be making every commentary about Christian leaders. I don't hear of Muslim leaders, individuals being analyzed the way it is going on. Yes, it is your view, but a public medium like yours that is loved by everybody, whether you are a Muslim, we should be careful to be sure. And even if Pastor Adeboye is to be analyzed, I will expect that we bring religious men, Christians, senior pastors, people who know about religion, to analyze some of these issues, the points. I believe he did not.
Thank you very much, sir. Beecee, wanted to jump in here.
Yes. So, so first of all, I want to say that maybe we're just taking it literally. When they say pray, we just look at, worshiping and bowing down and asking God. And I know that in the law courts, when you submit what you want the Lord, you say, I pray thee. It's a form of prayer. Prayer is supplication. Prayer is making a request. Yes, prayer is asking. So the prayer could also mean, aside from praying to Almighty God to come down and help us, could also mean praying to the politicians to do things right, praying to ourselves to do things right, praying to the Constitution so that it can be changed for policies that would affect everyone positively. That's also a form of prayer, and we are only saying that. You can break it down for us. Let's not look that if you don't come to a certain place, you gather and you bow your head, you are not making prayer. We can make prayers in different aspects. So just make it holistic. And I agree with you. The how that you talk about what a leader has said is also very important. We need to be a lot more respectful to our elders. But in the scriptures, I remember that every prophet that was ordained to serve God always challenged authority. We're talking about why is it that people are expecting the pastors and the imams to challenge authority. I think it's part of their job, which they are no longer doing because of certain reasons. And either because of the way the world is going, the country that they find themselves, if you speak out, you're either going to jail or they'll close you down, all of that. So we are now into self-sufficiency. Everybody's trying to preserve, I have a business, I have a church, I've been running for how many years, I don't want government wahala, so I'd rather take my face away. But if you go to the core of the prophets in the scriptures, they all, at one time or the other, hold on, let me land, at one time or the other, challenged authority. They spoke up when things were wrong. That is one of their mandates. Aside from leading their people to God, they also ensure that things ran well for the people. Because after the spirituality in the churches and the mosques, we come home, we face the traffic, we face the lack of food, we face the no education, we face the no quality healthcare, we face all of these issues. And these are the issues that make your members have quality life. So are we just going to sing, dance, clap, and go back to poverty and penury without our head challenging and asking questions of authority?
It was the same church in the days of old that eventually evolved into the separation of church and state. Was clear. It didn't come after many countries had their constitution, and it was clear that you must separate church from the state. The state will run, and you can't expect the church to get involved in governance because that's not their business. But let me take this call. I've been holding for a minute. Ola Oluwa. Good morning, Ola Oluwa. You're live.
Yeah, good morning.
Go ahead, please.
I want to go the way of the last speaker, the lady sitting beside Morayo. You see, I think our Daddy Gino needs to enlighten us further. The place of righteousness, because I know it's righteousness that exalts a nation. Righteousness is not being without sin. Righteousness is when you know you have done something wrong, take steps to right your wrongs. That is what, and that's what will exalt a nation. There are leaders that are in place now that they have done evil, yet they will not confess it. Righting the wrong starts with confessing it. That is when you confess that God knows that, yes, you now know what you did was wrong, and you are not likely to do it again. And that is what brings pleasure unto God, for God to bring a time of refreshing upon the land. So righteousness is doing things right, finding what is wrong, and speaking to power, so that things can be done right. That's righteousness. And that's what makes this nation to be great again. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You want to jump in here?
It was muffled. Just something small. I did not say they should be involved in politics. I said they should question. Even when the separation came, the churches have to be on their own. The religious, let's stop using the church so much. The religious bodies have to be separated from the government. We still have religions in this part that is really not separated as such with government. And the ones that are separated, we are not saying because you're separated, you turn a blind eye to what is happening in your state and in your country, because the congregation, your congregation are from your state and your country. So you must question. We're not saying go to the office and say you want somewhere, when you come to Aso Rock, you have somewhere that is for a chapel for something. But you can ask questions. You can hold government to accountability. And the young people of these days are very questioning. They want to see. They want to see what you're doing. Though they say they themselves are more noisy, they are not doing as such, but they want to see you do so they can have something to model after.
Okay. Can I go?
So,
Go.
Let me let you jump in. Then
okay. Even in the world today, okay, let me talk from my perspective, because, Kola just said, why are they not calling out imams? But not on this table, we've done all of that. We've talked about every religion and any ills that we see in society. In the Saudi of today, Islam is a very conservative religion. But Saudi doesn't want to remain conservative anymore. The crown prince no longer believes in conservative lifestyle. And so what happens is that what ensures the conservativeness of the people is being imprisoned. So they are locking up their scholars in Saudi. When a scholar calls out the crown prince for anything that is not Islamic, he goes to jail. The records are plenty in that country today. We are getting to the part of the day, the world, the end time kind of thing, where people no longer want to believe in the gods unseen as it is. They want to see their God in the names of cars, rich men who change their lives, wealth, and all the materialism that are out there today. And so we are here. There's nothing that should surprise anybody well versed in the ways of the books to see that, a young person is now shouting at as a
We're
cleric.
going to wrap up very soon, but let me let you have the last one.
So I want to strongly counsel that as a nation, we must run away from things that have divided us for so long. And we shouldn't look for every available opportunity to make something a religious matter, an ethnic matter. When football, I like football, and I know that just before they start any match, they pray. The fact that they pray does not mean they did not practice, or it's only prayer they're going to do. Then when you even look at the nature of the person who is asking you to pray, for crying out loud, it's not only prayer he does. He couldn't have been praying alone, and Redeemed Christian Church would have, gone into as many nations as we now know. He would have had the respect of nations, at the point he does now. So I think we need to look at, beyond the message, we've got to look at the intention. We've also got to look at justification of the person speaking. You just someone, if he was just one prophet on a mountain saying, go and pray, and he's saying we should pray, even me too, I would be like, okay, so this is what you've done for 30 years on that mountain. Are we coming to join you on the mountain? But I mean, this is someone who has moved in his own way without the support of the government saying, I think you should pray. So it's an advice. Like, I would also advise Nigeria. So nobody should assume that because somebody has made his advice, he should be an activist, he should be the one calling the government. That's his opinion.
All right, we have to wrap up, but I think we all agree that prayer is required, but we also must add it with action. Yeah. We expect our leaders to also speak up, not participate in governance, but to also help in helping speak and conveying the feelings of the people to government, because they might be closer to government. So I think we're all saying the same thing in different ways, but I think there was no need for so much bashing of somebody of that repute. That's where I had a problem. Yes, I'm not saying we shouldn't question leaders, but there has to be some kind of a line. You don't cross certain lines. That's how I feel. But that's all we can take on this segment. When we come back, bring in our doctor. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us on our Healthy Tuesday segment. We'll be discussing glaucoma, the causes, symptoms, and diagnosis. Joining us now on the show is a senior consultant, ophthalmologist, and glaucoma specialist, Dr. Adonla Ogunru. Welcome to the show, madam.
Thank you.
So many people just hear of glaucoma, but they have no idea what it really is. They just know, oh, I'm going for surgery of eyes or something wrong with my eyes. What exactly is glaucoma, and how is it detected?
Thank you very much for having me. Glaucoma is a disease of the optic nerve, and the optic nerve is the nerve that gives vision. And this disease is actually eye pressure related. And most of the time, it occurs with increasing age, and it does not give symptoms. In most cases, the patient does not even know that he or she has glaucoma because it doesn't give pain, no red eyes, nothing. But in some cases, some may actually feel like, oh, I see rainbows around bulbs, and that may be what will actually, prompt them to come into the hospital. But in most cases, it doesn't give.
Wow.
So how do you now know that something is wrong for a young person if it doesn't give signs, no symptoms, and to also prevent it?
There are risk factors that are associated with glaucoma. Somebody who has a family history of glaucoma we have to present for, screening, and it's only by screening the individual that the person will be found whether he has glaucoma or early stage of glaucoma. By the time an individual comes complaining of poor vision and it's due to glaucoma, perhaps 60% of the nerves would have been affected. Whoa. And the nerve damage is irreversible, unfortunately.
Kidding me?
Yes.
Wow.
Okay. Welcome, doctor.
Thank
Good to
you.
have you. So I'd like you to clarify, does glaucoma have anything to do with sugar, excess sugar? Is it sugar related?
It's not sugar related at all. It's mainly the eye pressure. And the eye pressure is built up. We all produce what we call the aqueous and by the ciliary body in the eye. And the drainage is within the eye itself through the trabecular meshwork. When the fluid drains out, then it's able, physiologically, you're able to control the pressure below 21. But there are cases that the drainage becomes narrowed down and is not able to drain this aqueous fluid. And then the fluid builds up within the eye and then builds up the pressure, usually above 21.
Most Nigerians are used to going to see an optician, but you're an ophthalmologist. They don't even understand at what point do I move from an optician to an ophthalmologist, or even the difference, many don't even know.
Thank you very much. Well, an ophthalmologist is a trained medical doctor and specializes in the eye. As you have gynecologists that are basically medical doctors specializing in the obstetrics or gynecology, so you have ophthalmologists being specialized in eyes. And the optometrist, it's mainly optical, which has to do with glasses. And they are not medical doctors.
So they just have a basic knowledge. So I have this heat in the eye. I could be reading and suddenly I'll have this pain as if there's heat affecting my eyes. I have to close my eyes, force out tears for it to go to get relief. I have to stop reading. So it has really slowed me down. When I went to as you mentioned, the doctor, most likely an optician, and I had a test done. They had this whole set of, but I just felt I wasn't seeing someone who understood what I was saying. The first time I went, they ran through some tests and said, okay, it was something due, it's called dry eyes. I said, okay, what exactly would I have to do? They didn't have an idea. So I left that clinic and went to another clinic where I was tested. I had good vision. I could see well. I could do everything. I read everything that was shown to me until it was the tiniest. And then they gave me glasses that's supposed to help me read. It helps.
So let me
it's not exactly a relief. Right now, I'm even having...
Let me put a question to what she just said. So as a regular Nigerian, if I have a problem with my eyes, the first place I go to is an optician. Because I believe I might need glasses.
Yes.
So how do I know to go to an ophthalmologist?
I even want her to explain what this is, because I've seen a lot of people who know what this, who have this same condition, and we all just see doctors who don't know what it is.
Well, usually after 40, if an individual sees far properly, like 6'6", by the time the person gets 40 and above, we find it difficult to read the small print.
Smallest print.
We call that presbyopia. It's a natural incidence, and that is normally corrected with glasses. With increasing age, the power will increase, but that's just normal. It doesn't have to do with glaucoma. But the thing is, because glaucoma increases with age, the risk of having glaucoma increases. So glaucoma, the person will also be screened for glaucoma while you are presenting yourself for, presbyopia or dry eyes. Dry eyes is common now because we read most of the time on the system and all that.
That was much.
Okay, but so let me now put my own question, because the question I wanted you to answer is that most Nigerians will not ordinarily come to you. So it's like all your customers are probably going to opticians, and they'll probably do that for a few years. Before someone else says, maybe we should try an ophthalmologist. So how do I, as a person, what should I have? What kind of symptoms must I see? Before I call for an ophthalmologist or go to a doctor to see someone like you?
Well, the thing is, as a Nigerian, it's just that we may not know the difference. But when you have an issue with your body, you go to a medical doctor, right? It's just the same thing. If you have issues with the eye is also part of the body. You can go to the ophthalmologist, and then the ophthalmologist will do everything with the refractions, which has to do with the eye test and the optical test, with the whole examination of the eyes. And they will be able to make a diagnosis. It's important to make diagnosis of any eye treatment or any eye disease that an individual presents with. And then you now give treatment.
What does it mean to build eye pressure? What does that mean? Because I've heard that in recent times that your eye pressure is very high and then they have to recommend glasses. What does that mean?
The eye pressure has to do with the aqueous, which is produced within the eye. And the normal pressure is between 10 to 21. But when the pressure is being built up, then that is what leads to glaucoma, because it continues to damage the optic nerve that comes from the brain into the eye to give vision. And it takes a long time before the effect of the nerve damage is seen, even in normal activities or daily activities of an individual.
Does this affect children?
It does. And for people that are that have the family history, they are at risk. You have what we call the juvenile glaucoma. That those people will present at teenagers, and we've had those that have had maybe even one eye lost to glaucoma before their presentation.
Wow.
Jesus Christ.
And there are children that may be born with glaucoma. They come with maybe large eyeballs, which we call the bullseye, but they come, those ones will come with watering eyes, pain, they're not comfortable,
Right.
they're not able to open their eyes and all that.
Right, okay.
All this glaucoma thing is getting me a little
Scared.
nervous. So I want to move a little away from it, if it's fine with you, Ma.
It's okay.
So recently, I had a reason to take a child to a pediatrician, a female pediatrician, and as she attended to the child, wanted the atmosphere to be less tense. So I asked her how she got into the profession and if she thought it was lucrative or if she was going to encourage her children to go into it. And she gave me a very negative response, you know. And looking at your profile, I saw you also did an MBA. So tell us, for the young doctors who are aspiring to be ophthalmologists, what do you think about this profession, this line of medicine?
Hey God, yeah?
Well, as an ophthalmologist, it's quite interesting because the thing is, everybody we all have eyes, and without the eyes, you can't move. And when you see somebody who is blind, you feel concerned, and you want to help that individual to see. And you want to either rehabilitate that person if the person cannot even see with treatment and all that. But that's one of the things that brought me into ophthalmology.
Passion.
And that passion for it. And seeing people like cataracts, when you do cataract surgery and the patient sees, you see that joy coming into their lives, and you see the whole life.
Somebody had a
change.
question of floaters in the eye. Can that lead to glaucomas? I don't know what floaters mean.
Well, floaters, this happen when there is degeneration, changes within the vitreous, that's the gel at the back of the eye, and it could be like cobwebs or just like dots. The most important thing, many people may have floaters, which is
harmful.
Which is not bad, or which is not going to lead to anything. But the thing is, it's commoner in people that are short-sighted. And also, when an individual has floaters, it's important to dilate the eyes and also examine the person's retina. Be sure that the person doesn't have a retinal degeneration or a retinal hole or tear that may lead to detachment or other disease.
That was check it.
Check.
Okay, so I wanted you to talk about the advocacy for glaucoma. What are you doing so people can know when to check it? Because you said it's silent, it doesn't come with pain. It just presents itself finally. How would you advocate that at this age, age, or how frequent?
Yes,
Dentists will say every 6 months, see a dentist. How frequent would you say see an ophthalmologist?
Well, for somebody who has a family history of glaucoma, every 6 months, the person should check the eyes, check the pressure, look at the back of the eye. Then sometimes we have to do what we call the visual field, if there's any change. If the person, and there are some tests that will need to be done, like every year, for those that have history. Those that do not have, at least every year, everybody should be checking. Because, yes.
Every year, you should just be checking. So I felt
Yes.
very bad that I never checked my son, because I just assumed that
He has your genes.
he has my genes. The two girls already, their own signs started showing. So we saw it, and then we had to take them to the hospital. But for him, he had never said anything. He had never complained. Only for a few weeks, he started saying he was seeing blood. The letters were dancing. And I'm like, please, let's check this out. And we were told that he desperately needed to have the eyeglasses. So, but I'm more into prevention. Is there anything you can do to preserve your eye health? Is there any lifestyle that you would advise people to, to preserve? I don't want to believe that once you have something in your eye, there's no hope.
Well, it's important. One thing is regular exercises, balanced diet, and always checking the eyes. I mean, sunglasses, if you work in the sun most of the time, that's very important.
That's one thing I've always never...
Let's talk about...
Then the screen time exposure
Should
reduce. And if you have to stay so long, you may
Let's talk
have
about
to
somebody
get
who's been
lubricants.
diagnosed with glaucoma. What kind of treatments are available? What options does the person have? You said something about being irreversible. How do you treat it? Can it be treated?
Yes, it can be treated.
Okay.
And it's a lifetime management. And the treatments could start with use of eye drops. There are different types of eye drops that are used. And also laser treatment is available, and surgical treatment. It's an individual-based, choice of treatment, depending on the level or the stage of diagnosis this person is presenting. For somebody who has advanced loss of the nerves, you may want to do surgery, because that will you want to make sure that the pressure is very low, lower than 12.
When people hear surgery in Nigeria, they want to fly abroad. Yes, how equipped do you think we are here to address glaucoma issues or need for surgery in our country?
Well, we are, if we go to the right place, the ophthalmologists are trained doctors and surgeons, eye surgeons, that will be able to do. The commonest one we do is trabeculectomy, and it is able to reduce the pressure and is able to keep the vision for a long time.
Sorry, one last question, ma. One of my friends just had this injection in the eye. What was that for? What?
Well, there are different types of injections you give in the eye.
Okay.
And is the person diabetic or something?
No.
Or has a degeneration in the macula? There are many injections. The person had surgery before.
No.
Okay, so a lot of questions.
You have to ask your friend.
Tell your friends to go and do consultation. But let's talk about...
What would you advise to prevent, you mentioned wearing sunglasses. Okay, because YK drives with sunglasses. She said it was recommended. I say, hey. So some of these things that we can do to prevent, to protect and preserve our eyes. What are the things you suggest?
What else?
Of course, if glasses is recommended for you,
please wait.
Wait.
You don't wear glasses, and you seem to be at least above 40.
Yeah.
Like, so eyes are good.
Is it hereditary, or is it something that based on your own care for your eye that you're not wearing glasses today?
Well, if I have to wear, I talked about the distant vision being good. And if you have to read small prints, you may need the glasses. That's just reading glasses, and you may not need it.
So
what does yeast do for someone that,
Yeast.
they've been yeasting us since we were little. So what does yeast do in the eyes? What does it do?
Well, yeast is just like a supplement, like vitamin A.
But it helps the eye now.
Oh, really?
Who should be
used to do baking?
Not be the one for
baking. No, there's a
tablet or something.
There's a supplement we're giving as kids, because my elder sister, while we were in primary 2, her GS3, she just couldn't see. She wore thick glasses, thick bottle.
Those bottle ones.
So, and suddenly she sees well.
With the yeast.
There was a treatment she took for that period of time that my dad was taking her to Ikoyi for, and after a while she just stopped. She just could see. So everybody has yeast. Take on, take on.
What about 7 C's and cod liver?
All those things.
Vitamin
what
A.
exactly?
Okay.
They're all
Just-
vitamin
Vitamin A.
A. Yeah.
and palm oil. You should
Palm
eat more
oil.
palm oil.
We dey
Vitamin
talk
A.
about tire.
Oh, I'm glad. So, I mean, as we wrap up, I mean, we have just
There's a
few seconds.
question for you online. Medina is asking, does dry eyes lead to glaucoma?
No.
Yeah, very do. Okay.
Just need to use lubricants.
What kind of lubricant?
So
one
go to
for
the doctor.
eye, yo.
Let them go to the doctor and go and find it, please.
Before you go and
That
try
is
the other
all
one.
lubricant.
See what kind
That
of
is all. We have to thank you, Dr. Ogunro, for joining us this
Thank you
morning,
very
for
much.
educating Nigerians on this glaucoma, because it was really interesting. As I said, many Nigerians don't know about it, and they are not aware. And if they go to see an ophthalmologist at least once a year, to know. So if you think, once you're wearing glasses, you think you're okay, I don't have any eye problem. But beyond that, that's just for you to see, it's just the optics, right? But really to check the care of your eye, the same way you check for your heart, you check for your kidneys, your liver, your uterus and all that
Check
stuff.
your
You need a
eyes.
doctor who cares for the eye. So I will also pay attention, because I don't do that. I'll go and check my eye.
Me too.
Thank you so much.
As well.
for joining. That is all we can take on today's show. Have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.